Hey you, so on this video, can stacking silver make you rich? I'm going to be answering and putting out a question, and that is, I was asked since everything I've shown on my channel since I've been stacking silver, have I actually made any money? Now, I'll put a few things out there and hopefully you guys can answer in the comments. One would be, why are you stacking silver? There's normally going to be one of two reasons. It's either going to be one, for a preservation of wealth. Now, I believe many hide under that, guys. They'll say they're stacking it for a preservation of wealth. And the second is going to be to get rich, to make money. But then this is where a lot of people run into some types of speed bumps sometimes when they don't understand the dynamics of silver and just hear a lot of, the cash is trash and, it cost 1 ounce of silver to feed a Roman family 2 billion years ago and all the stuff like that. So, I think sometimes a lot of people get into it under the hype, the silver tongue lies, and then they run into current life problems. It's easy taking on board a lot of the old phrases and a lot of things that meant something back then, or even taking into account a country's bad situation, be it Venezuela or anything. And some may believe you could buy 20 apartment blocks with 1 ounce of silver. Until you're currently in that situation, and wherever you may live on the planet, you could really ask yourself, would you even be in that situation? You really need to take into account when you're applying these things to you. But for me, I would say when I first got into it, and especially picking silver heavily first over gold, I was working under that label there, and it was a preservation of wealth, and also seeing the opportunities in silver being so undervalued, as a lot of people mention. It's a better buy right now. But it's, as I've gradually moved along, and you've seen this heavy portion of the collector coins I'm showing here, I've seen the potential, and I also saw a means of just spicing things up, getting into different types of coins, and we're talking collector coins, and seeing how they was able to benefit my own personal stack and even help me to acquire more foundation coins, as I've done many videos in the past. So, answering the question, has stacking silver made me rich? I would say no, it hasn't made me rich. Now, I say no because even halfway, 3/4 of the way into the time up until now I've been stacking silver, I got into other ventures that was, you could say, people have looked at me like I was a Luddite or a caveman when I've mentioned, I do have the odd silver or gold coin, because they just don't see no sense in it. They see it as barbaric. Many see physical as a pain in the ass, depending on who you're talking to. So, I get the same impressions when I don't really talk a lot on this. I know a lot of the precious metal gang really don't like cryptos, but it have to be somebody heavily involved in the metals or distrust knowing, or can anticipate when the dollar or the pound is going to collapse. This is where you want to have your wealth. But why I say no is that getting into cryptos 3/4 of the way into my stacking career, I saw gains, like ridiculous gains, and the possibilities and potentials of other investment buckets outside of physical metals. Looking at that, my game plan has always been seeing the potential of physical, loving physical, and cashing out into physical from any of my other ventures. Whenever I take gains from anywhere I'm invested in, I always know this is where I want it, extremely liquid should and why I need to liquidate, especially in gold. And I feel a lot more safer having my gains here. So this is always going to be my go-to. It's my flatbed, even from putting a large chunk of my funds into it initially, and I've done videos on that in the past also. I jumped straight into purchasing foundation coins when I first came in, and then from there, just through talk with dealers and stuff, talking about and hearing and seeing the potential to collect the coins, I ventured into those from there. And I have definitely made gains. I mean, answering the question, if I was to sell, if I only kept my foundation coins, I believe the price I got them for at the time was a very nice price, but was rather low. This is a toned piece that I've just had out sitting around, and this is just comparison here. It's been real nice seeing what's really happened to it, naturally toning over time. So if I was to have not got into collector coins at all, I've only shown my foundation, once, and even then I'd branched into getting some more that had more to collect the coins. If I would have just stayed with my foundation, with the amount I put in initially, if, and that is a big if, because I had no intentions, I was very firm in my beliefs. I have other savings and other investment buckets, so I wouldn't need to dip into it. But should the time come for some unforeseen reason and I had to dip into the stack or even liquidate the stack, and I had all of my foundation coins at the time, which is a bunch of the Britannias, Lunar Horse Privies and the likes of, I'd be one of the lucky few who would break even with maybe a small mild profit. I believe time I was getting ounces Britannias for around just under £11, £10.50, around that area. So that was the average cost of the majority of my foundation at the time. I done all the purchasing at the time. Another fortunate move for me that really worked in my favor in the long run. Now, since then, I've liquidated metals to put back into metals. I'd always state that also, and that was to go into certain ventures on collector coins. But with the collector coins, I've been able to increase the stack more. Even though, yes, more silver foundation I have purchased, I did pay at a higher premium. I'll be able to barely break even with those, even on some of these that was purchased on the same flips what I've done. I would still be in a fortunate position to break even. That's even taking into account of the collector coins that I purchased, that I sold at a loss, that went on to go into coins that have gone on to do extremely well. So I'm in a good position. But what I will say saved my bacon would be getting into purchasing when I purchased played a massive role, because I got in hard. I didn't stagger my buys. I didn't pound cost, dollar cost average. I knew what I wanted. I'd done all my due diligence. I done a lot of research into it. The biggest mistake I would say I made is I went heavy silver first, whereas it could be a different story right now if I would have went 50-50 gold and silver. I would say my gold stack would be worth significantly more than my silver stack, whereas taking into account I purchased a small amount from UK before I started finding EU dealers. Taking premiums into account, I would say it would definitely still even be looking better if I was in some type of situation where I needed to liquidate now, which is what would not happen. So it was these coins here. But once again, getting back into the gains in the crypto world, seeing what I was able to make over there in such a short period of time, as risky as it is, once again, depending on who you're talking to, people see physical risky. They only want to deal in paper, because one thing I will say, as liquid as it can be, it is a pain in the ass, regardless if you're moving 1 ounce of gold or 100 ounces of silver. Sometimes you either can take it upon yourself to, get it shipped out. That there's a whole new risk there. The second it leaves your hands and it's in whichever delivery courier you choose to pick, it's a whole new world. And we all know, and I've heard horror stories, especially in the UK, of some delivery couriers not covering insurance. So you're taking a big gamble there. I've done a few transactions with UK dealers, and to be straight up, I didn't insure it, because once it got to a certain amount, insurance alone was looking upwards of £300 to £400, and it barely was even covering what I had in there. And I've known individuals that have gone through a claim back process and said it was practically worthless, it was pointless, because they got such to run around, they would never do it again. Thank goodness they never had a large amount. I was again in a fortunate position when I've done deals with European dealers, as they've covered shipping. And so, it would have been covered under they've sent the shipping labels under their insurance. I know with UK dealers, I've been told up front outright that they can't guarantee what's in the package. I think it's somewhat of a cop-off, but I guess it's them being safe on their end. So as they can't guarantee what I'm sending in the package, they're not willing and prepared to provide the shipping and get it insured. So that's down to yourself. So you have to take that into account when you're liquidating either physical. That could be a chore for many, believe it or not. It's easy to purchase, but then, for some to sell. And remember, we still do need to sell this stuff when the almighty day comes. So has it made me rich? I've been very savvy when it came to flipping collector coins, and even taking and seizing the time, striking while it was hot. It's not made me rich in comparison to the short amount of time I spent in crypto land comparing the gains, how easy it was to make profits putting in the same amount. If I put £1,000 in metals, regardless of the coin, it could have been a Dragon Phoenix Era coin, and I wanted to sell a roll. Regardless, I need to now take shipping. It requires a lot of work in the long run, is what I'm saying. Whereas £1,000 in crypto land, time of releasing this, we've had this massive spike in BTC. Now I'm somewhat involved in BTC, more heavily in alts, but just the gains alone have been fantastic. And to put in is easy, and to liquidate is even easier. So, seeing gains and returns, regardless of, many people say 1 BTC is nothing and an ounce of gold is physical. We're in a different world altogether, I would say, to these types of people. In the end of the day, if somebody doesn't want to do something, any excuse is going to work in their favor. If you think you're safe with physical, many would say you're not. You have the liable of your goods being stolen if you keep them in vault storage or bank secure storage or being burgled. There's always some clause for why somebody won't do that, because it's too risky. It's all down to the individual. I like to take somewhat calculated risks within my own comfort zone. If I didn't get into the collector pieces, my stack, knowing that I was going to go long term, not being a problem, but it could have been bad, even depending on the time that I got in. And this is why I've done videos stating that it's very good to have a mixture of both, because if we have the same stagnant times that we've had within the past, I'd say 4 or 5 years, where we have metals going up, down, sideways. Currently, gold seems to be shooting off, but as we all know, it goes up, it goes down. Nothing new, nothing new here. It's just part of the seesaw ride that we're on, depending on when you're looking to cash out, or depending on how long or how far you're willing to go. So, can it make you rich? I would say no. People need to seriously question themselves and ask themselves why they're getting into it. Is it a good preservation of wealth? The amount of funds that I personally put in, and it was a large amount of funds into silver, has it done well preserving that wealth? Yes-ish. Once again, once it shoots up, everything's out the window. It's yes, yes, yes. Is it a get rich quick, or can you get rich off of it? Have I currently, my stack foundation-wise, has I got rich off it? No. Should it shoot up in spot price? As we all know, spot goes up and down, then it'll be yes. So realistically, ultimately, if you can go long, and all the way long, any type of savings and vehicle you use, whether it's a savings account, pension, or whatever, IRA, it's always with the mindset of going long. So, if you can do that here, I think it becomes an issue for some, because, when you're thrown a curveball, you're actually able to physically see and touch it. Whereas you can have some savings accounts that you can't have access to. So mentally, it's not even something that you can reach out to within arm's reach. But whereas with this, you can look at it, and if you're in a bad pinch, okay, I'm going to take a bit of a hit, but it's like cash in the wallet. It's even better than cash in the wallet, because it's there, and you know that you'll be able to sell it at the blink of an eye. So ultimately, it all falls down to which individual and who you're asking. But I'd say key, as always, is really figuring and asking yourself. I just see today's world totally different than yesterday's or yesteryear's world, so thinking that, silver is, extremely undervalued, and we're in a whole different climate altogether. Just in terms of the Earth's population alone, I could see playing a massive role. Yes, currencies collapse, but then, how many currencies have collapsed and been replaced? Not with what we see here. In that transition, it's the fantastic and best time to absolutely gain from what I'm holding here. But in the meantime, it always goes back to paper. I think that's generally where the mindset is. Where do I think we're going from here? I've said before, it's going to be some type of a crypto or, paperless currency, where they'd only need to worry about something like this every 2 to 3 or 400 years. They're not going to have to worry about hyperinflation and the likes of, when we're no longer dealing with paper. I think it'll be a fantastic time to have physical and cash in on physical when the time comes. But what's that going to look like? You can ask some, do you believe we'll see a war within the first world? So, America and Russia and the UK and the likes of. And it's unthinkable for some, but it's totally possible. And it's the same when you look at since I've been alive, I've only been involved in one currency. It's stayed the same. and seeing that crash, what's the world going to look like? I think it will play out different. I think people in general are a lot more occupied mentally. Today's world is there's people have been desensitized just because of even just their phones alone have people desensitized, and social media and just all of the social blockages. So it's going to be very interesting, but ultimately it hasn't made me rich. I could see it making a lot of people poor or broke, depending on when you get in and how you go about it. I've always said governmented because it's well recognized and a lot better and more wanted and liquid than other pieces. It's all going to boil down to literally what pieces you have. But, the collector coins are not all 100% sold, and I'm full foundation. That's the ultimate long goal. But currently, with certain pieces, really boosted my stack in more ways than one. Just with the Queen's Beast coins, for instance, these lions, picking these up a little over the premium and seeing what they're worth now. It's these types of plays that I've done in the past that maybe, these opportunities are dwindling even more as the current climate in the collector coin market's rather down, drib. But it's from doing moves like this that enable the stack to strengthen. It's furthermore, I would say even moves like this are able to, soak up the losses that I made in other investments that was either collector proof coins where I took losses. These claw them back. So these are the types of things that I would say you need to constantly do, even though I wouldn't need to draw upon my stack should I run into any unforeseen circumstances. It's good to know that it's not losing money, so I can prop it up as I'm physically in possession of it. I can tweak it as I see fit. But I'd like to know, has stacking silver made you rich? Did it make you broke? Or how well is it going for you? So I'm just putting that one out there and also answering it. So it'd be fantastic to know your thoughts and opinions in the comments, guys. So go ahead and do that. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And I'll catch you guys on the rebound.